All right, my trend investors, this is Investing 4.0 Visionary Investing in Future Trends with another video, and this time we're gonna still stick to the category of AI, and we're gonna talk about Baidu today. Now, Baidu is a very interesting company, especially compared to Appen, which we analyzed last time, because Baidu is somewhat transitioning its business model. But let's jump right into it. You might have heard about Baidu, and currently Baidu's business model is somewhat close to Google or Alphabet. So right now they are ranking within the top 5 largest websites. So among Amazon and Google, you find Baidu. And Baidu is basically, as I just said, the Chinese Google or Alphabet. You can see it when you look into their business model a little bit more in detail. They basically are a search engine. So if you go to Baidu.com or CN, you'll find the search engine. But they also have maps, translation services, somewhat like Wikipedia, a cloud service, but they're also investing in autonomous driving and AI. Right now, they're having about 70% market share in China, but it's dropping as we are about to see. So they're really working on voice recognition, authentication, recruitment solutions, and even provide intelligent hardware. You'll find a very big list if you actually go to the website and see what types of AI they actually invest in. Now, what is important to mention, and that's why I'm bringing out this video today, is that tomorrow on September 15th, they're hosting an AI event, like a digital event. And basically the focus of them is intelligence of everything. So it really shows that they're heavily pushing into the AI sector. Now let's take a look at the evaluation, and quite frankly, if you look at the numbers, they are not really promising. So the past years, especially 2018, has been very bad news for Baidu. If you want to cluster Baidu into 2 categories, basically it is the search engine along with the maps and translation services and all that kind of stuff that you know from Google. And they also actually built something like an Alexa or Google speaker, like home speakers. But they also consist of a sub-branch which is called iQIYI. And iQIYI is something like Netflix basically. And that is having a negative impact on their earnings. As you know, as Netflix, they struggle a lot with being profitable. In the end, that means that the EBIT in 2018 was 15,500 million Chinese yuan. And then in 2019, it dropped about 60% to 6,300 million Chinese yuan. That's again 60% drop over that period. Since 2017, where they had 77% market share in China, they dropped to 66% in 2020, so this year. Now, why is that? In 2018, the content from, this, I gotta admit, this icon that I drew here is more like an evil twin of WeChat, but that's the icon, supposed to be the icon from WeChat, the biggest messenger service that you know in China. You can also pay through it, and it's like, it basically is all the apps that you know and that you use every day combined in one. So very futuristic, cool app in China. But also Alibaba, one of the biggest shopping sites for wholesale, for business to business, but also business to customer services, somewhat like the Chinese Amazon. And since 2018, or as of 2018, the content from WeChat and Alibaba is not captured as properly on Baidu any longer. So it's like searching for Amazon products on Google and not being able to find them, or content for WeChat, which is very popular. Every small business pays via WeChat, every small business is operating with WeChat, and not being able to find them properly in Baidu is definitely a big problem. So that explains some of the 60% losses since 2018. At the same time, Alibaba, also Tencent, and other companies are being more and more competitive and offering their own search engines and search functions that are highly capable within their apps and programs. So more competition for Baidu. Now, currently the share price is around $120 a piece, which I think is really high right now. But there's always a but. So I think the intrinsic value is 100, and I might consider buying them at 95. But right now, I will put them on my watch list and wait a little bit. especially tomorrow, since they have the digital day here, intelligence of everything, as I said. I want to see what they really want to do, what they invest in, how they're going to push AI and also healthcare, which is very promising for the future. Now, again, I mentioned there is a but. So let's take a look at the pro and con list real quick. I believe that they are really putting work into the changing environment. They're reacting to what we see here. Drops or significant drops in the core business mean that you have to shift your business model. And that's what they are doing by heavily investing into AI and healthcare. So they are really getting ready to the future markets. Obviously, we have to say and mention that Tencent and also Alibaba and other companies are also investing into healthcare and AI. But I think Baidu, with still having 70% market share there, they have a lot of data and similar like a position like Google. So that's a plus. The second point is that we see significant growth opportunity in China still. So China currently has about 1.4, 1.5 billion people, and currently only about 700 million internet users. So the new generation is using internet heavily. The current generation that is growing up is using internet heavily. And since China is becoming richer and richer and is trying to distribute the wealth to a certain degree, that is how the Chinese Communist Party can actually legitimize itself through spreading the wealth. We actually see a big potential. So another 700 million possible internet users that are becoming wealthier and wealthier and buying things, which actually speaks a little bit for Alibaba, but we are not looking at that company right now. So more people will use Baidu and the services, and if they are really positioning themselves well, then we might see a very good business case for the future. Same thing that I wanted to mention, actually I think it's supposed to be CCP, the Chinese Communist Party or Communist Party of China, is investing, and I think they already gave them or invested 1 billion into this company. You know that a lot of big players in China are heavily backed by the state, and China is doing everything to really grow these companies and supporting them if they are significant, and if the Chinese Communist Party can get anything out of it, like in this case data, for example, and AI will be a big field. So I'm not talking about ethics today. You can think of it what you want. I'm not going to judge it right now, but that's a plus as an investor. Having the state, which is in a wealthy position right now, is not bad. Also, the cash reserves of Baidu are still looking solid, besides the big drops that we saw here in revenue and sales. And last but not least is, of course, the big potential of AI and health, especially in China. So Chinese people in general are more adapting to those new technologies. Me being German and in Europe, I can say that we are not doing this. Of course, a lot of things are regulated and highly regulated by European and German laws, which prohibits us to really get into these topics real quick. And China is very fast. Also, healthcare will be more important. We know that pollution and everything is still a big deal in China and is becoming more and more important also for the Chinese Communist Party. So there will be heavy investment into AI and health, combined with a big potential, a big pro from my side. Now there's some negatives. We see that they have a declining market share overall. So that means if less and less people use Baidu as a search engine, they will not have that many data anymore, or they will lose some of the data that they had before. Still big. I mean, we're talking 700 million people plus another potential 700 million people who could actually use the internet. But if we see this dropping further, that's a pretty bad sign in my opinion. Now, I already mentioned it, the increasing competition. We see that Alibaba, Tencent, and so on are also investing into this area, are also actually trying to get some market share of Baidu. So that's a critical position for a company like that. And last but not least, international affairs. And I'm just going to mention a few here. India just banned Tencent games, for example, but also services from Baidu that were used in India as well, and that is something that is not too good We see similar things within the US, just to mention, or just to give you one example. I bought shares of Xilinx, whatever you want to call it, semiconductor provider in the US or manufacturer in the US. And when Trump mentioned that he's going to prohibit companies cooperating with Huawei, one of the biggest 5G and telephone providers from China, those shares dropped significantly. So I think I'm still down about 20 or 30%, even after the market recapped a little bit. That is pretty bad. So we'll see that the attacks on China are increasing, the international attacks. Now India is putting more pressure, US is putting more pressure. I think other countries might follow. In Europe, we are also discussing this, if, for example, Huawei should actually be an option for 5G. And that's a big con always when we talk about Chinese company. Just to let you know, I studied Chinese in my bachelor's degree. I spent almost 1.5 years in China. I was able to speak fluent Chinese. I think not any longer. It's getting worse and worse every day. But if you like to see more stocks analysis about Chinese companies, let me know and I'll try to provide them for you, obviously within those trends that we're going to take a look at. Now, that is what I think about Baidu. Overall, I think it's an interesting company, but as I mentioned, I will put them on my watch list first because I really want to see how serious they are investing into AI and also compare it to the developments of Tencent, Alibaba, WeChat, and so on. So I really want to get big numbers, and then we will see how Baidu is developing. Right now, in my opinion, the stock price, again, this is intrinsic value only, not calculating future perspectives. This is just intrinsic value. But I think if we see another drop, I might consider buying a small position into Baidu and then observing them over the long time, and I might eventually increase my position there. I will definitely update you if I decide to buy Baidu, and then I also mention the reasons. But for now, that is my analysis about Baidu, and I think it's very interesting to see that some businesses that are actually, it's pretty obvious if you think about what Google and Alphabet is doing, are supposed to invest in AI, but that's why I picked Baidu, because they are really within the midst of changing their business model and heavily investing, and it's definitely going to be an interesting company to watch in the future. Now, the next videos will probably switch over to new trends, and don't worry, we'll always get back to the trends that we analyzed in the past. I just want to get the basics out to you guys as fast as I can so we have a good foundation, and then we can, analyze those stocks and companies properly. Let me think what you think about Baidu, if you actually like the stock and the company, if you already bought it, or if you consider buying it, or if you put it on your watch list or not at all. Let me know down in the comments. I put a lot of work into this, and I think even this, or at least the picture, deserves a thumbs up. So give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate that, and see you next time.